Everyone, welcome back to the Daily Blend show with me, Reed Dailey. This is the first weekly rundown of 2025, and I'm excited to be back with you. If you're new around here, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the show on IG, X, Instagram, etc., etc. You can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to check me out on social at Reed Dailey, pretty much everywhere and anywhere. With that said, let's jump into the show. So you might realize that I am wearing the second sample from the Sheridan golf collaboration project with, well, it's not really a collaboration; it's just a project, and I'm fired up. So we've got we got to figure out the name of the logo, but the Sheridan S, and we got just a great blank fitted hat that we're checking out the kind of the build quality of, but they turned out great. I'm really excited about them. So if you are less familiar, you can check out Sheridan.golf on Instagram. You can also go to daileyblend.com and follow along as we launch this brand over the coming months. In terms of, what's been going on. So it's been a couple weeks. I was on the road for personal travel over the holidays, and then just been sort of back to back with meetings and travel for the day job, and excited to have a chance over the holiday break to spend some time down in Atlanta and down in Florida and really get to reflect on the year and start to think about, the year to come. And one of the great things of doing that was, I had a little bit of chance to do some goal setting when I got back from vacation, because I took kind of that first week off, which is my new go-to, thanks to my better half telling me that this is like the ultimate play of, it's quiet, not much goes on. So take the first week off and kind of reflect and regroup and take care of all the stuff around the house. And so one of those things I did was goal setting. And I typically do goal setting, but one of the big things that I wanted to do was do look backs. So I often find that I'm really good at planning, pretty good at doing, and sometimes very bad at reviewing. And so I've blocked out, from a tactical standpoint, I've blocked out an hour every Friday to review kind of the goals that I set forth for myself, both professionally and personally. And sort of I break those down into what are my professional goals, what are sort of like the personal goals of things that I wanted to accomplish, anything from like special projects to family stuff. And then I put down like wellness, and I think about those things as sort of my three different buckets. And it was super helpful. Now, the one thing that I did look at was I'd been setting sort of the same goals for the last couple of years and not moving the needle. So two things that I'm doing to sort of course correct that. One is I've gone out and got sort of like a coach, and I've got not a coach, but I've got a couple people in my corner where I said, like, look, I need to do a quarterly, what's called business review. There's no business, but, a quarterly check-in with you on what am I doing against my goals. And basically I said, I'll give you money or booze or something, take you to dinner. And they've all sort of laughed at me and said, no, man, I'll just spend some time. I love your energy and your ideas. So that's always great. The other thing that I'm doing is doing sort of, like I said, the weekly check-ins. We got monthly check-ins and in my own kind of quarterly business reviews. And so that's been really helping me be more successful. Last year, I did a ton of like journaling about what am I going to do on a daily basis. And I love that exercise, but I find that it kind of consumes, a lot of time in the morning when it's kind of my quiet time. So from like 5 a.m. to about 7 a.m., I have like basically unrestricted creative time when I'm doing things like shooting this video here. And I found that it just consumes too much time. So what I've done is I sort of pivot that, and I do a lot more of my planning on the weekends for the full week through, like, basically I start my planning on Sundays, and then every night I sort of do a review and then planning of the next day. So like, what did I accomplish? What moved to the next day? What do I need to delegate? What do I need to cancel, basically? A couple things that I'm doing with that. I really want a Remarkable 2 I think I'm just caught in the hype cycle and really like the idea of the simplicity of it. But, I was like, okay, I've got an iPad Air 2, which is what I'm recording this podcast on, and I've got the Apple Pen. So there's got to be a similar solution. And I've found this great app called Notably. And it's got a ton of templates ready to go, everything from like to-do list to content planning, which is what I used to make this show. And then I realized that I can import some of the templates that I've been making in Canva last year, and I'm off to the races. Some of the templates that I made just don't fit just based on like handwriting versus typing. So I'm going to make some tweaks, but I'm loving using Canva as sort of like the template creator. You export from PDF and then you import into Notably, and then you're off to the races. And because there's color to it, I can see like completed things. I can use color to indicate like work in progress. I can cross things out, which is really important to me, I guess. And so that's really been helping me sort of move the needle in terms of keeping myself on track, planning things. Now, in terms of reviewing things, I've got really two solutions that are helping me. From a social media standpoint, I'm using a new solution new to me, called Databox. And so I've got it set up for my different social channels. And so I have dashboards that are coming in based on the different channels. And then I'm working on making sort of like an all-encompassing it's not a dashboard, but like a page where I get all of my key metrics. So like on a Friday at 6:30, I've scheduled out for like the week to date on, my social channels and how they're performing on key metrics. And then I just reflect on that. And what's interesting, or I find interesting, is I'm actually copying and pasting it into a PowerPoint deck that is shared by no one. I'm just keeping it for myself and looking at trend analysis. I took this idea from a sales pipeline YouTube video that I saw about just like documenting all of your sort of wins, successes, how's it going, et cetera, and just making sure you're documenting it. And so not only am I taking the snapshots, but I'm entering it into like a matrix Excel tracker so I can see it. Now, on the wellness side, I've been using MyFitnessPal, and I even think I used like Livestrong for a long time. And I wasn't getting the macros and a couple other things that I wanted. And I found chronometers. And so I've moved fully over to that, and I'm liking it, way more data. And then basically on the weekly basis, I take my chronometer data and then I move it into Google Spreadsheet so I can track things. One of the things that I like watched on a YouTube video a couple of years ago was Rob Dyrdek, if you remember that skateboarder guy. And he evaluates how his like happiness level every day and like how well rested he feels, which I thought was interesting. So I'm starting to play around a little bit with more subjective evaluations, but nothing like to report out on yet. But thus far, really happy with my ability to sort of plan and execute and review. So plan, do, review better this year than I have in years past. So I went to Starbucks for the first time in a while, and you can tell that the new CEO is implementing a lot of change, or not a lot, but little subtle changes. And I talked to some of the baristas. When I was up there getting a coffee this afternoon, they asked me if I wanted a mug. I was like, when have you ever offered me a mug to sit here and enjoy this instead of just hawking the next coffee to the next guy? And so I talked to the baristas, and it sounds like, obviously we've heard about the SKU rationalizations, looking at different food menus and kind of having a more uniform food solution throughout the day, and then really trying to make it a third place. I've heard some negative things in terms of like an ecosystem where, for certain communities that leverage Starbucks as a place to stay warm, they're not going to be able to. But trying to move, which is unfortunate, but trying to move Starbucks back to that sort of ultra premium brand will be interesting. And for me, I got Reed, you're doing amazing on my cup. So that was cool. Next up, let's talk about some music. So I had, a couple very cold days over the holiday break, and I used that while the house was sort of quiet and people just wanted to be on their own after 9 days of traveling. I downloaded a ton of new music, discovered a bunch of new artists, DJs, and was able to put out two new mixes. So Dailey Blend podcast, not to be confused with this show, the Dailey Blend show, episode 156 and 157 are out. I'm pretty proud. I created some new artwork for it, so I hope you go and check it out on YouTube and, of course, over on SoundCloud. Playing around a little bit with the icon. I've got one option that I started with. I'm on to my second option. I'm going to play with my third, but pretty happy with the one that's out right now. I'd love to get your feedback. I'll probably do some sort of like voting on that through the Spotify polls as well as on Dailey Blend just to see what people think. If speaking of the website, if you haven't been over to daileyblend.com in a while, you're going to notice that the front page has dramatically changed. What I wanted to do, and I, full disclosure, I saw this from EVC. This is the British guy that has the podcast and just launched a $400 million VC firm fund. He focuses on investors and sort of capital allocators. I'm not trying to mimic that, but really trying to focus on, doing two main features, which is showcasing other folks and their companies and what they're bringing to market, and then showcasing special projects like Sheridan that I am involved in. So the latest episode is from High and Mighty, which is an RTD drink where I interviewed Dan, and we get to talk about everything from going from an idea to bottling to liquid and lips campaigns to growing and fundraising. So it was a really great conversation. Highly recommend you going and checking out my interview with Dan as he builds his brand. In terms of Drink with Greg, it's been a minute. Greg and I have been busy, unfortunately, and we haven't recorded a new podcast. We're going to try to fix that in 2025. But I was able to try a brand new tequila that is finished in Buffalo Trace bottles and lower proof, great taste. I highly recommend it. I'm going to be talking about that more over on Drink with Greg, so be on the lookout. In terms of travel, I'm heading down to Atlanta tomorrow for the Built World Conference. Very excited for that. We are going to be, like I said, meeting up with a bunch of startups and folks that are focused on AI and ML, and then got a private reception, so looking forward to that. And you can check out more on my other podcast, the Digital Deep Dive Show, which is all about technology and people using it, creating it, and the impact that it has from the enterprise to the individual. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And more on Sheridan as we climb out of this cold winter and we start to move towards golf season. Hey, just as a friendly reminder to check out my newsletter, the Friday Top 5. Each week, I showcase 5 things that I thought were interesting, notable, or just enjoyable to get your weekend started off right. You can head over to daileyblend.com and subscribe to the Friday Top 5 and get all of that goodness delivered to your inbox every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe. Really appreciate it. And catch you on the next episode.